What if your skin started producing fibers? Tiny, colorful threads that seem to emerge from nowhere, from wounds that refuse to heal. What if you felt something crawling beneath the surface of your body, day and night, and every doctor you visited told you it was all in your head? Would you believe them? Or would you keep searching for an answer that science hasn't found yet? This is not a scene from a horror film. This is the reality described by thousands of people around the world who suffer from a condition known as Morgellons disease. It's a story that sits at the dangerous intersection of medicine, psychology, and the unknown. A story where patients and doctors can't seem to agree on what's real, what's imagined, and what lies somewhere in between. Tonight, we dive into one of the most controversial and puzzling medical mysteries of the modern era. Welcome to the Medical Enigma. Let's unravel the mystery of Morgellons disease. To understand Morgellons, we need to go back to the beginning, or at least to what most consider the modern beginning of this story. The name Morgellons was coined in 2002 by a woman named Mary Leitao, a former medical laboratory technician from Pennsylvania. Her young son had developed sores around his lips, and he complained that something was bugs moving beneath his skin. When Leitao looked closely at the lesions with a microscope, she said she found tiny fibers, red, blue, black, and white, embedded in or emerging from the sores. Concerned and confused, she sought help from numerous physicians. None of them could explain what she was seeing. Many dismissed her concerns entirely. Leitao eventually founded the Morgellons Research Foundation and used the term she had discovered in a 17th century medical letter by a physician named Sir Thomas Browne, who described a similar condition in French children with harsh hairs on their backs. Whether or not that historical account described the same condition, the name stuck. By the mid-2000s, thousands of people had registered with Leitao's foundation, all reporting eerily similar symptoms: crawling sensations under the skin, open lesions that would not heal, intense fatigue, cognitive difficulties, sometimes called brain fog, and those mysterious fibers. The stories were coming from across the United States and eventually from around the world. The condition began attracting national attention when several high-profile cases were reported. Joni Mitchell, the legendary folk singer, famously spoke out about her struggle with Morgellons, describing it as a devastating and isolating experience. Suddenly, what had been dismissed as fringe medical complaints was making headlines. But here is where the mystery truly begins. Because as more people came forward, the medical community was deeply, profoundly divided. Let's be clear about one thing. Morgellons disease is not officially recognized as a distinct medical condition by the mainstream medical establishment. And that fact alone is at the heart of everything controversial about it. The medical community's dominant position, supported by several major studies, is that Morgellons is most likely a manifestation of a psychiatric disorder known as delusional infestation, sometimes called delusional parasitosis. In this condition, a person holds a fixed, false belief that their body is infested with parasites, insects, or other organisms. The scratching, picking, and self-inflicted wounds seen in delusional infestation can produce sores, and the fibers found in those sores, doctors argued, were simply environmental contaminants, textile fibers from clothing, bandages, or bedding that had become embedded in open wounds. In 2012, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, published what was at the time the largest study ever conducted on Morgellons. It was called the Unexplained Dermopathy Study, and it was carried out in coordination with Kaiser Permanente in Northern California. The study examined 115 patients who had registered with the Morgellons Research Foundation. The conclusions were striking, and, depending on who you ask, either clarifying or deeply inadequate. The CDC researchers found no infectious cause. They found no evidence of a parasitic infestation. They analyzed the fibers found on patients and determined that they were primarily composed of cellulose, consistent with cotton fibers from clothing. They concluded that the condition was most consistent with delusional infestation or, in some cases, with other well-understood psychiatric or medical conditions. Their recommendation that patients receive psychological evaluation and treatment. For many in the medical community, that was the end of the story. Case closed. But for the patients themselves, and for a small but persistent community of researchers, the story was far from over. Critics of the CDC study pointed out serious flaws in its methodology. The sample size was small. The researchers had not actually analyzed the fibers under rigorous forensic conditions in every case. Most importantly, the study had been designed to look for known pathogens, not to investigate a potentially novel condition from the ground up. It was, they argued, a study that started with the conclusion and worked backward. And then came the research that truly upended the narrative, at least temporarily. In 2012, the same year the CDC released its findings, a research team led by Dr. Marianne Middelveen, a veterinary microbiologist, and Dr. Raphael Stricker, an internist specializing in Lyme disease, published a paper with a very different conclusion. Their research suggested that the fibers found in Morgellons patients were not environmental contaminants at all. They were, the researchers claimed, composed of keratin and collagen, proteins produced by the human body. In other words, the fibers were biological in origin. They were growing from the skin. That finding sent shockwaves through both the medical community and the Morgellons patient community. If the fibers were produced by the body itself, then Morgellons could not simply be explained away as a psychiatric delusion combined with lint from a sweater. Middelveen and Stricker went further. They proposed a potential link between Morgellons and Lyme disease, the tick-borne illness caused by the bacterium Borrelia burgdorferi. In their study, the vast majority of Morgellons patients they examined also tested positive for Borrelia infection. They suggested that Morgellons might be a rare cutaneous manifestation of Lyme disease or a related tick-borne infection, a physical, biological condition rooted in bacterial infection, not in psychiatric disturbance. This link has remained enormously controversial. Lyme disease is itself a deeply contested topic in medicine, with serious disagreements about diagnosis, chronic infection, and treatment. Tying Morgellons to Lyme disease means entering one of the most contentious battlegrounds in modern medicine. So where does that leave us? In a place of profound uncertainty. On one side, mainstream medicine, which sees Morgellons as a psychiatric condition and the fibers as explained. On the other side, a smaller community of researchers and thousands of patients who believe something biological, something real, is being missed. Let's look more closely at some of the most striking details that have emerged from the research, details that make this mystery so genuinely difficult to resolve. First, the fibers themselves. This is the detail that most captivates and most divides people who encounter Morgellons for the first time. Independent analyses of these fibers have produced a remarkably inconsistent range of results. Some labs have found cellulose, supporting the environmental contamination hypothesis. Others, using more sophisticated techniques, have found keratin and collagen. Still others have found what appear to be unusual biofilms, complex colonies of bacteria or other microorganisms, embedded in the fibers. One study detected the presence of agrobacterium, a type of bacterium known for its ability to transfer genetic material into plant cells, though the significance of this finding remains deeply disputed. The inconsistency in these findings tells us something important. Either the analyses themselves have varied too widely in quality and method to be compared, or the fibers are genuinely variable, which could mean that Morgellons is not a single condition, but a cluster of different conditions that share similar presentations. Second, the neurological dimension. A large proportion of Morgellons patients report severe cognitive symptoms. Memory loss, difficulty concentrating, confusion, and emotional dysregulation are commonly reported. These symptoms have led some researchers to suggest a neurological component, possibly linked to inflammation or to spirochetal bacteria, which are known to be capable of crossing the blood-brain barrier. Borrelia burgdorferi, the Lyme disease bacterium, is itself a spirochete and is known to cause neurological complications in some patients. Third, the demographics. Despite the stereotype of Morgellons as affecting a specific type of person, the patient population is surprisingly diverse. Studies have found that Morgellons-like symptoms are reported across a wide range of ages, from children to the elderly. They appear across different ethnicities, different socioeconomic backgrounds, and different geographic regions. While there is a slight female predominance in reported cases, a pattern common in many autoimmune and dermatological conditions, the condition does not cluster in the way you would expect if it were purely psychological or purely the result of suggestion. Fourth, the animal connection. Here is one of the most overlooked details in the Morgellons story. Veterinary researchers, including Dr. Middelveen, have documented what appear to be Morgellons-like conditions in cattle and other animals. These animals cannot be dismissed as psychiatric cases. They do not read online forums and develop mass psychogenic illness. If similar fiber-forming conditions have been independently observed in non-human animals, it raises serious questions about the purely delusional explanation. Fifth, and perhaps most provocatively, there is the question of environmental factors. Some researchers have speculated about a potential role for genetically modified organisms, pesticide exposure, or novel environmental contaminants in triggering or exacerbating Morgellons-like symptoms. These theories remain entirely speculative and lack strong scientific support, but they reflect the broader frustration with the absence of any definitive explanation. What we are left with is a collection of individually puzzling facts that do not yet add up to a coherent picture. Each piece of evidence seems to raise more questions than it answers. Beyond the scientific debate, there is a deeply human story at the center of Morgellons, one that is often overshadowed by the controversy over whether the condition is real. Consider what it means to have a condition that the medical establishment does not recognize. You experience symptoms that are frightening and debilitating. You develop open wounds on your body. You feel sensations that you cannot explain or control. You find objects, fibers, granules, specks, emerging from your skin. You go to a doctor, and instead of receiving help, you are told that you are imagining things. You are referred to a psychiatrist. You are treated not as a patient with a physical ailment, but as someone who is mentally ill. This experience, being disbelieved, dismissed, and stigmatized, is itself a profound source of suffering for Morgellons patients. Research has consistently shown that this dismissal leads to increased rates of anxiety, depression, and even suicidal ideation in people who identify as having Morgellons. The psychological harm caused by medical gaslighting is real and measurable, regardless of the underlying cause of the physical symptoms. There is also a troubling pattern of social isolation. Many Morgellons patients describe withdrawing from relationships, losing jobs, and spending significant portions of their savings seeking diagnoses or treatments that never materialize. Online communities have become lifelines for many of them, spaces where their experiences are validated, even if those spaces sometimes also spread misinformation. The medical community's approach to Morgellons also reveals something uncomfortable about how we handle conditions that do not fit neatly into existing categories. Medicine is extraordinarily good at treating conditions it understands. It is much less equipped to handle conditions that fall into gray zones between the physical and the psychological, between the known and the unknown. There is also the question of what happens when a patient has a real psychiatric condition and a real physical condition at the same time. These are not mutually exclusive. A person can have anxiety or depression and also have a genuine, unexplained skin condition. The presence of psychological symptoms does not and should not negate the investigation of physical ones. Yet, in the case of Morgellons, many patients report that once the label of delusional is applied, physicians stop looking for anything else. This raises a broader question for medicine. How do we approach the unknown without causing harm to the people caught in the space between what we know and what we don't? So where does the mystery of Morgellons disease stand today? The truth is, we do not have a definitive answer. The mainstream medical consensus continues to view Morgellons as a psychiatric condition, or, at most, as a label applied to a collection of other recognized conditions. The CDC has not reversed its 2012 conclusions. Most dermatologists and psychiatrists who encounter Morgellons patients recommend treatment for delusional infestation. And yet, the fibers persist. The patient testimonies persist. The small body of biological research suggesting a physical substrate for the condition persists. And the unanswered questions persist. Perhaps the most honest thing we can say is this: we do not yet know enough. Medicine has a long history of dismissing conditions that it later came to understand. Multiple sclerosis was once dismissed as hysteria. Lupus was misunderstood for decades. Fibromyalgia remains contested to this day. The history of medicine is, in part, a history of apology, a series of moments where the medical establishment looked back and said, "We should have listened more carefully." Is Morgellons one of those moments? Or is it a cautionary tale about the power of the internet to amplify and spread shared beliefs that take on a life of their own? The answer may be neither clean nor simple. It may be that Morgellons encompasses both, some cases rooted in psychological distress, others in genuinely unexplained physical phenomena, all of them tangled together in a story that science has not yet had the tools or the will to fully unravel. What we owe to the people who suffer, regardless of the ultimate cause of that suffering, is the same thing we owe to every patient: careful attention, genuine inquiry, and the humility to say, "I don't know yet, but I am still looking." Because in medicine, as in all great mysteries, "I don't know" is not the end of the story. It is the beginning. What do you think about Morgellons disease? Do you believe it is a genuine physical condition waiting to be understood? Or do you think the current medical consensus has it right? Have you or someone you know ever experienced unexplained symptoms that doctors couldn't identify? We want to hear your story. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. This is the kind of conversation that makes the Medical Enigma community so powerful. And if you found this investigation compelling, please give this video a like. It helps more people find these stories and join the search for answers. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new mystery. Every week, we explore the cases that challenge what we think we know about medicine, science, and the human body. The search continues, the enigma remains, and we'll keep digging until we find the truth.